I'm Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Witch Cafe. Tonight, we are sort of debuting a series. We haven't really figured out what to call it yet, so I just put like Experiencer Accounts Episode 1 for now. Tonight, we have David Lanier, but before we get to that, I want to thank everybody joining in the live chat. I also want to thank anybody listening later on Anomalous Podcast Network. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, anybody watching it on YouTube, period, please give us a like, subscribe, share. And in the description is everybody's information. I'll add David's. I'm not sure if he wants his out there yet. So I was going to ask him tonight. But yes, there's other ways to support the channel. Steph's links are there as well. All right. So let's get right into it. David is an experiencer who I met on Calling All Beings channel. And great channel, by the way. And he has a lot of interesting things that have happened in his life as far as the UFO phenomenon goes. So, David, do you want to give us a quick bio and maybe like a quick rundown of what you've experienced? It doesn't have to be a quick rundown of what you experienced, but
I think if I explain the whole thing, it would take 2 hours. So, yeah. I mean, just incredibly briefly, I have experienced multiple times within my life and during one like 2 to 3 chunk period, namely, where I was in very close proximity to UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call them, multiple different styles of craft, some of them within 40 to 50 feet, some within 100 to 200 feet, but I did not need binoculars or a telescope. It was clearly, there, varying shapes and sizes. I saw orbs, the balls of light, and I'm not necessarily talking about the dust particles that show up in photos, but like a ball of light about the size of a softball, maybe a little bigger. And then also beings. My wife and I both saw beings, grays. I saw one. My wife saw 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. Three for sure, maybe a fourth. Our middle daughter, we think she saw one. We think our son and our oldest daughter had an experience. My wife was pregnant at the time that it started happening. There were voices, there were dreams, and then there were other kind of like odd paranormal type occurrences as well. And that lasted for about 2 to 3 year chunk, and it has since stopped, thankfully.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Just trying to listen so you can get it all out. But the first question is, this took place in Alabama?
Yes, in Alabama.
Okay. Now, before we get into Steph's question, because Steph from UAP Experiencers is with us, and she's a professional about this. She's got a list of questions she asks experiencers.
Okay.
But before that, you were mentioning to me some of the strange places that you live by. Do you mind telling that to the listeners?
Sure. 40 miles north is that way. 40 miles north of where I live is Huntsville, Alabama. When we spoke on Calling All Beings to John Ramirez, he immediately knew what that place was. I jokingly refer to it as a miniature Area 51. Boeing is there. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is there. NASA has a jet propulsion lab. The Army has a major missile defense development program that goes on there. Raytheon is there. On and on. It's a major center for jet propulsion, missile development, and NASA, and all associated kind of companies. And that's just 40 miles north. So by air in something fast, that's real close. And I, in full disclosure, full honesty and transparency, there were times where I was like, are they testing things out of that area? I don't think so personally, because it got real intimate, and it makes no sense that the military would take that much of an interest in me. But I mean, just so that debunkers and skeptics can kind of scratch their head, that is in close proximity, you know.
And
All right,
the
Steph, go ahead with your questions now, because I know you have some great questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here and glad to listen to what occurred to you, and your family. And it does make it a lot easier to, describe it and share it with the world when you are not the only person. And I think that this is also opening it up for people who have had their solo experiences to say, hey, look, we understand what you have, you know,
Mhm.
what incident you have, seen. So I don't want to say dealt with because it could be good or bad, but yeah. So that is a perfect segue into asking, how close were you to a military or Air Force base when you saw what you saw?
40 miles south.
Okay.
I live in Coleman, Alabama,
Mhm.
and my property is pretty far north in Coleman County, and I'm literally about 40 to 45 miles away from that place I just mentioned, Huntsville,
Okay.
Redstone Arsenal. Yes. Also, there's a major nuclear power plant very, very close to Huntsville as well, which is 40 miles north.
I see. Yeah. So on top of all of those other places listed, there's so much air activity
Hmm.
happening. So I
And
mean, I would
also
imagine.
the
Yeah.
beach is about 5 miles south.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of all the hot spots that a UFO would be are pretty close to where I am. And
Sure.
also there is a lot of air traffic. Yes.
Yeah. So from what I would imagine is they're getting curious because they're viewing us at this point. From what I'm concerned with is that they're interested in what we're doing, and
Who's
my
they?
family, we were in the aerospace business by actually assembling parts that would be part of, say, a stealth bomber, military helicopters,
Mhm.
part of the Apollo project.
Mhm.
So we did have some kind of connection to it,
Mhm.
but my father was in the Air Force, military, just different people in my family were part of it, but the people who actually saw it, we weren't. My mom wasn't, my brother wasn't, I wasn't, my sister wasn't. So I'm just wondering if there's a correlation with the military connection to the phenomenon, even when you're maybe a step down the pyramid, if you will. But okay, so that answers that question. And are you part of the military by any? Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. Interesting. So just close. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. And so as far as what you remember, you've described that there've been a few different shapes. Is there one that stands out, more dominant, that would have appeared to you guys?
Um, the ones that stick out, the one that I think sticks out the most was a crescent. It,
Okay.
I think in my mind when I saw it, I thought like a swallow, the bird, like a swallow. It has those kind of curve. It comes to a point
Sure.
similar to that. I mean that thing was
Wow.
close. It was very close. Like I could have hit it with a rock. I can't emphasize that enough.
Wow.
Uh, that sticks out the most, I think. And there were also two black triangles, uh,
Wow.
a metallic sphere. Well, I say this, it was big. Just a metallic sphere, uh, a teardrop or a pear, but it was on its side, and that thing was over my house, like just.
Wow.
And then there was something I don't understand, but it just looked like an X. It was kind of small, just looked like an X. Um, and then when I was 17, I saw one that was big. It was like a blimp looking thing, and it did
Mm-hmm.
the instant acceleration thing where it just
Mm-hmm.
like took off like it was shot out of a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think off the top of my head, those stick out the most because it was just like
Oh, yeah.
It's
it,
not anything that you've ever seen, even as a child. I mean,
Right.
even if you saw this I mean, how old were you when you had your first experience?
17.
Okay, so I mean, you could tell the difference between a helicopter, an airplane, and something that you could not identify clearly.
Absolutely. And also, I spent,
Wow.
because this wasn't a part of my world, like, that's another thing I can't emphasize enough. Is
Yeah.
that I was not like up till 3 a.m. smoking weed and watching Star Wars
Right.
and going like, "There's UFO." I think,
Exactly.
you know, it was
Right.
like that wasn't part of my world at all. I mean, this
Wow.
was invasive. I don't know
And
how else
that
to put it. Yeah, and it was just kind of just like there's no words because your brain tries
right.
to grab onto a memory or a word or a thought and there's nothing and it's just like you just blank out. I can't even just hardly describe it. And
I
some of
can't
the
imagine that. That's insane. It's the whole ontological shock, right? I'm sure that after that you were just questioning so many things that you believed in or didn't believe in.
well, I think it hurts. It like hurts your brain to
Mm.
try to rationalize it because there's no frame of reference at all. I mean, it's like I jokingly told my dad it would be like looking out the window and a pig just floats by. It's like what the. So yeah, it's just weird. It's really bizarre. And several of the craft had the orbs very close by, like the orbs were kind of swimming around some of the
Mm.
craft. So I assume that the orbs are associated. It's my feeling that it is the beings, but they've taken some other form that allows them to get in and out of the ship faster, move around quicker, or just the nature of their being. I don't understand, but the orbs seem intelligent. They move around and they'll kind of stop and swim, and it's really bizarre.
Do you think maybe that the entity would be, say, shape shifting into something else to appear as an orb?
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people see the orbs, like
Mm.
Yeah.
particularly red and orange.
Yes.
And some people
Mhm.
see blue, and I
Mhm.
saw red and orange and white, and particularly red and orange. One night, my wife saw one outside the window, like the bedroom window. I wasn't awake for it, and she doesn't get into this, so she's like, I don't know. I can't remember if she said red or orange. I don't know which one it was. But apparently, one was outside the window one night. I never saw one in the house, but I definitely, and I mean, you can strap me up to a polygraph machine. I don't want to start a new religion. I saw what they did to Anjali, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to go down that road,
No.
but
Yeah.
I just, on my mother's grave, I saw these things and it's so real. You know, people try to say, well, do you think it's your consciousness that's manifested itself outwardly? And I'm like, no. I mean, I guess it's
I,
possible,
yeah.
but then so is this and this. You know, I mean,
Right.
it's that
Exactly.
tangible
Yeah.
in
And I'm not
reality.
laughing at the thought of that because I definitely think that it's like that can happen in some cases, but I'm laughing at like you're just like you're not part like you said that you're not part of that
No.
world.
I didn't know who Jacques Vallée was until I came to UFO Twitter. They're like, you don't know who Jacques Vallée is? I was like, am I supposed? I know who Jacques Cousteau is. I mean, and genuinely, I'm just like a virgin to this whole thing. I'm like, what? Other people have seen this too. So, you know,
Well, when did you decide to start kind of unveiling what happened to you?
um, I had I had told some people when it was happening, or I would post on Facebook. I would get drunk and I would go on Facebook and be like, "There's aliens outside. I think they're on the moon too." And I would wake up the next morning and like delete it and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I posted that." And
Oh.
then that was kind of
Darn
my
it.
life. And I didn't talk about it because I quickly realized people thought I was nuts. But then I saw, I think it was in 2020, the gimbal thing. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
hell, oh no!" And then I came on UFO Twitter, and you know, all these people like Jeremy Corbell, I think he said like, "Hey man, you know, if you see something, say something." And then Alex Dietrich said
Right.
the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And then I kind of feel like everybody's like, "Whoa, maybe don't say that much," but you know,
No.
we're talking
No.
UFO. But
Some people might have been, but it kind of starts there and it depends on like who you're talking to, but little by little people are kind of being curious about this and the people that have seen them if they haven't seen one.
I mean that definitely triggered me, and I
Agreed.
you know.
So it
Yeah.
triggers you when you talk about it and people aren't receptive?
Mhm.
I totally hear you. I think that's a normal, response. But I kinda was d our we were a little different, like, I grew up in a weird house, like, my grandma was very open to things, so, but I can't imagine not having any background about it or not even having words for what I saw and experiencing what you experienced. You said it was invasive, and then your wife as well has had, experiences.
Mhm.
So, it's like a whole family at this point, which Steph, her whole family saw a UFO, so it makes you wonder, like, why are they showing whole groups of people themselves, and then there's other people that they don't even see anything at all, like, nothing paranormal ever happens to them. No Jesus in a tortilla, nothing, like, nothing.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I saw a gray in a tortilla. I'm just kidding.
You know what? Oddly enough, that was part of like when I was going through everything. And I know this sounds crazy, but I'll get into the woo tonight because
Do
I've,
it, this is the
I've,
place.
Bring
yeah,
it.
well, I've been keeping it like, craft orbs gray. I don't know what it means, but like there was some other weird stuff that was going on. And I would
That was one of my
see,
questions, so please talk about
yeah,
it.
well, I would see gray eyes, like the gray eyes. And again, I saw a gray. I don't know how else to say it. I'll my wife saw him. We think our middle daughter did. But I would
Mm.
see the eyes like in everything. I don't know if that makes any sense. Jesus in the tortilla.
Yeah,
It was like that where it was just like I couldn't get away from it. Like
skinny Bob in a tortilla.
everywhere exactly. And
Guys, and I'm
everywhere
joking because I've been through it. I'm not joking to make
Yeah.
fun of
Yeah,
anybody. I
no,
have,
no.
like it's my coping mechanism because
100%.
I
Yes.
get it. And it got to a point, I mean, again, it hurt my brain, just all the synchronicity and just kind of realizing like whatever this is reaching out. Like they are going like, don't ignore this. Like,
Yeah.
and or that's how it felt. I
Mm.
feel like I have to dial things back because people are like, really? I'm like,
No,
I
well,
don't
you have us to talk to, so if you do want to talk, we're always behind the scenes for you.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and my wife, she also experienced things too, and she was pregnant when this was going on.
Ugh.
So, I know a lot of people say that that's kind of part of what they are doing. Um, and she definitely, like, she would wake up, she had a little scab on her belly button, and she was like
Mhm.
freaked out. And she was convinced. Our youngest daughter's name is Violet, and she was pregnant with Violet, and she was convinced that she had twins. Like she just knew that
Wow.
she had twins, and it was just a bizarre pregnancy, not
Mm.
because of everything that was going on. Um, but I mean, we did home births because we're witch
Oh, nice.
people. Uh, we're not witch people. But I just
It's
hippies.
human people. People do that all the time unless there's, people have
Well,
done that up until the past decade or 2, so
well, she chose it, and I'm just along for the ride. I was like, your body. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So
you were supportive, that's all that matters.
right, and so she didn't believe in like ultrasounds. She was so convinced it was twins. She had two ultrasounds
That's
because,
crazy.
and meanwhile, she's waking up in the middle of the night and there's like grays in the bedroom, like, and people want to say like I can't pronounce it, where you wake up and you are
Sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
kind of sleep paralysis. It's got a, like a more specific name, like hypno.
Oh, hypnagogic state.
Yeah,
You're
like
yeah.
people will offer that up, and I'm just like, well, to me that seems like a disorder that happens often. Like,
Yes.
this only happened in that 2 3 year window when there's
Uh,
ships and orbs and everything.
Uh-huh.
And she saw one that she assumed was big or tall or floating, she said. And it seemed to be coming through the wall, and she didn't know about any of this stuff. So when she says
oh,
coming through the
man.
wall, it's not because she was up reading a Whitley Strieber book.
Right.
It was because she was like, I think it's coming through the wall, or it's floating. Maybe it's 7 feet tall. I mean, she was incredibly
Oh, man.
poised about it. And I was like, she said she thought she was seeing things, but then it moved. She said it like shifted its weight.
Oh,
I was like, did it have clothes on? She said no. It just it had skinny arms, and I could only see
Right.
like its torso, had a thin neck, and the gray.
Please tell
Uh,
her she's not alone with what she saw because a lot of people have
well,
experienced that. So I
I
don't want her to think she's
yeah,
crazy
Was
or
it
that she doesn't have what she saw isn't something that other people don't see. So a lot of people have seen that typical tall type of gray.
yeah.
yeah.
I
Was it a
mean,
shadow figure? Was it illuminated by
no, it
light?
was we live out in the country. So when at nighttime, if the moon's bright enough, it illuminates
Yeah.
enough so she could see it. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't I'm aware that they appear as silhouettes.
Okay.
And actually my mother saw the silhouettes. And
Wow. Your
that's
mom too.
oh yeah. And that's
Was she
kind
in
of
your house when this happened or was this
no, this was
before?
before I was born.
Oh.
And this is
Ugh.
something she's highly educated, very much about her business. And she was a teacher for a long time, taught everything from like kindergarten to college. She didn't like talking about this, so I kind of feel bad saying it, but it's part of it. But yeah, she saw
Hmm.
little silhouettes. She said on two occasions, one when she was 19 and one when she was like in her late 30s, early 40s, and then twice saw a silhouette of a man, like a well built male figure that was like a silhouette. And one time he had something she referred to as a scepter or something in his hand,
Yes.
and he held it up like this, and the little silhouettes disappeared.
Wow.
And so, she thinks that it's angels, or
Yeah.
what have you, and my wife thinks that the Greys are demons.
Right.
Personally, I I'm not there. I'm like 70% there, but I still leave enough room to go like, well, I'm not entirely sure, but my mother experienced it as well.
That's
Uh,
interesting.
and then I
That brings up the
saw,
whole generational link that
Right.
happens with a
yeah,
lot of people.
and
Right.
this is some woo stuff too, but I heard voices. Am I having a schizophrenic meltdown? I don't know. But I heard voices, I got ideas. A lot of the time it was when I could see a craft. Um, some of it's confusing, I doubt it myself. So I'm not sitting here like trying to preach a new doctrine.
No, not at all.
And I did ask if I was one of them. And because I was reading about like hybrids and like
Right.
human aliens and all this kind of stuff, and the response was like laughter, like, but not like you jackass, but more of just like laughing at a child that asked kind of a
Yeah.
question.
That makes
And
sense.
then the response was, no, but you are a direct descendant of the mutated humans. And
Okay.
and that was all I got. Now, am I conflating something I read with something I'm imagining because I'm having a freak out because there's things flying over? Possibly. Am I having communication with whatever's flying these ships? Also possibly.
It's
But
still on the table, right? Like, it's still all out there, and I wanna point out to somebody listening that thinks this is all bullshit, can you imagine just going about your life and then wondering if you're schizo out of nowhere, when you haven't had a history of that?
and can
Do you
I
know what I
say,
mean? That
uh,
is scary to people. It's scary to me it's happened, and and I grew up with my grandma talking about spirits and ghosts and demons. Mediumship was happening. I would hear ghosts myself, but so I can't imagine not having that and then having that. Um, so I'm sorry that you went through that because that's very confusing.
I feel like I have assurance because I asked them so many times, like, is this really happening? Like, show yourself, give me some sign. And they would, like, I feel like I might have asked one too many times, like, open the door a little too wide. Um, but like the fact that they would continually confirm that it was happening and that my wife was seeing it as well. I mean, I was just like, my God, this is really happening. Like, I still can't believe it. Like, I still can't believe it. It's, I, yeah, but
Yeah, and that's part of their intention, is to alter your reality. Honestly, I mean, I think that might be part of it, and you're questioning that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what a normal person would do, is what the heck happened? Why did this happen to me? And why is it happening to my family for generations?
Mm-hmm.
Now, did your mom have an actual experience herself?
Yes, when she was, again, this is kind of sensitive information. So, like, I've seen how
Sure.
some investigators and researchers will actually look up
Hmm.
people, and I'm just saying, don't.
Yeah, don't do that, guys.
Yeah, no,
But, like, that's really shitty. If I can
No,
cuss,
yeah,
like, that's
leave
really
people's
shitty.
family out of things. If you don't agree, that's fine, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
plus
anyway,
I'll curse you if I find out. I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's right.
well,
Get me their names.
Love it.
yeah. Anyway, so when she was 19, she was at a church camp. And she relayed this story to me after I told her that I was having experiences. Because I had to tell somebody, like, I was having a mental breakdown. And my father told me to talk to my mother because she's had
Mm.
similar experiences. And he was like, David, this has been going on since I was a kid. This isn't anything new. Go talk to your mother. So when she was 19, she was at a church camp in a cabin. And this is how she related to me. There was a rustling in the closet, and she went to go look, and she said there were two short silhouette heads of something. And she slammed the door back, and whatever was in there like pushed back on the door. And then she slammed it shut again and ran out, went to the counselor's cabin, and the counselor let her sleep in their cabin that for the rest of that night. Then again, when she was 37, she woke up in the middle of the night, and there were the same, she said, the same kind of short silhouettes where you just kind of like could make out a head, but they were short. And there was one on the bottom left of the bed, the top of the bed, my dad's side of the bed, and then on the other side was the man, like the silhouette of the man. And she said it lifted the scepter up, and the little ones disappeared, and it proceeded to tell her, like, I can't remember, something about like when she was going to die, or her life's purpose or something like that. So she had experiences as well, but she doesn't have UFO experiences. She didn't see craft and things like that. But when I saw my first UFO at 17, that was around the same time she would have had that experience in the same house with the silhouette of a man.
Hmm. Priscilla, do you mind if I ask him one of those questions? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Go for it.
Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. So, yeah, you mentioned the death and when she would, and that
Mm-hmm.
just sparked my, thought of a lot of people have near-death experiences whom have, experienced entities, crafts, what have you. So, have you personally ever experienced anything near-death experience where you
Yes.
you questioned, like, hey, I don't know if I would have made it through that?
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Okay.
This again, when I was about 26, my parents told me this. Um, why they waited this long, I don't know. I have issue with that. I need therapy. But they told me that, when I was a toddler, I was given a MMR vaccination.
Hmm.
And shortly after the vaccine, I went catatonic. I just kind of went like that. And my eyes were bugged out, and I was just unresponsive. And they took me to the doctor. I had mercury poisoning, and the doctor said I was going to die. They sent me home in an incubator, and had a nurse there with me to help me pass on. Clearly, I didn't. Now, um, another communication I had with these things, uh, they said that that was when they started interacting with me, that they were the reason I didn't die.
Yeah.
Again, schizo
No.
episode, conflating what I've been reading, and through paranoia, I'm hearing this, or that actually occurred.
Hmm.
Um, and they said it was also them that I saw in 1997. So yeah, I did have a near death experience, but it wasn't one I was conscious of. I wasn't made aware of it until I was like 26. And then, again, I saw craft, like I know I did. And I heard voices, and I don't understand that, but that was one thing that I asked and was communicated to me.
I mean, that, and all of that information could be like downloading, really them communicating to you is a download. It all is supposed to start making sense for you somehow in some way, you
Yeah,
know?
that was something else that now some of the communication I really don't question as much.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things, because this was a communication where I do remember seeing a craft, like two orange lights on the other side of trees. And it's fuzzy because it was like over a decade ago. Um, Actually, my daughter's 11, so it would have been about 11 or 12 years ago.
Oh,
And I do remember, shit, I lost my train of thought. I do remember
okay. The craft
asking,
in the tree.
why it was happening. Like,
Oh,
why? Like, what is going on? And they essentially, I could get into some detail because they did say some things, but ultimately it was like, we got to do what we got to do. We're not going to hurt you. Nobody's going to remember anything. Yes, it's happening to your kids. Yes, it's happening to your pregnant wife. Yes, it's happening to you. It's for a good purpose. They kind of talked about that purpose a bit, but ultimately I couldn't handle the revelation of it. It's just too much. And I don't know if that's just me. Like, I'm a very sensitive, emotional person. Maybe
mm-hmm.
it's just me. Like, oh, you can't handle it, man. Like, you're too sensitive. You're gonna break down. Or if it's like literally my brain would melt, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, I get
it
you.
just shatter my reality so hard that I
Right.
can't come back.
Yeah.
But they followed up by saying it will make more sense as you continue to live your life. And I just kind of took that as like, whatever it was that they're doing, I am just, I am doing it now. Whatever the purpose was, it is it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I just have to live my life. Am I nuts? Did that really happen? I don't know, but it's just
No.
like that was kind of what I understood, was just like, just do you, and that's it. That's
Right.
the thing that we're doing.
That's exactly right. And you are being authentic to yourself. And it's best that you do share. And this leads me to my next question. Now, the big case in Zimbabwe, where all the kids did witness a
Mhm.
craft together, they received messages such as, having, the planet is starting to diminish and we're going to need to save it. And, you know, are there any similar messages that you've received similar to that, where you have deep concern for what's going on in the world? I mean, clearly we all do right now, but do you have something that's been knocking on your brain for, the last couple of decades to say, hey, look, you really need to do something about this. You need to get this message across to people, that would be more so than like the average person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say specifically, this was happening right before 2012,
Yeah.
and diving into, it's so bizarre that just that little craft in the sky
Mm-hmm.
just cracks open this whole Pandora's box of
Yeah.
everything weird. Like, so, again, I'm not into this stuff.
Yeah.
But
You're
now I
fine.
am, and now I'm like, the Mayan calendar. That's incredibly important,
Yes.
also. Like, we got to get to the bottom of this. I paid to listen to some like Mayan elder's great grandson
Wow.
explain what it all meant. And one thing he said is that we're shifting into a female energy, and
Yes.
here comes the Me Too movement and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my god, I think he was right. So
Yeah.
like, and more power to you.
Yeah,
Uh,
it
you
makes
know,
sense.
but anyway, specifically with the ETs or whatever they are, I did ask, like, is there something to the 2012 phenomenon? And they said yes, but not in the way that you understand. And that was often
Mm.
the tail end of every response, not in the way that you understand. The way I understood it was biblical apocalypse. Okay,
Yeah.
we gonna die. This whole place is gonna blow up, and it's over. And I was like, oh God. So they were like, not in the way that you understand it, but yes, also
Hmm.
there will be, and this is again like pretty verbatim, like this has stuck with me. There will be chaos and destruction,
Yeah.
but life will go on.
Uh-huh.
And I
Wow.
said, and so the Haiti in 2011, there was a terrible earthquake in Haiti. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
Yes.
it had just occurred like very shortly before this communication. And this was when the orange lights were on the other side of the trees. This is pretty vivid. And as far as if, uh, and they said yes, it will be similar to that, but life will go on. Okay, I'm like, oh god. And then
You're like,
and then the tsunami happened in Japan.
Wow.
Like, and you can Google this, and those two
Yes.
events happened like within
Yeah.
months of each other.
I remember that. That was a rough year for the
Oh,
world.
birds were falling out of the sky, and dolphins were
Yeah.
washing up on the beach, and everybody's like, "How can you are?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, no, it's a conspiracy. It's
Mm.
I don't know." Anyway, all that weird stuff was going on. I was like, holy crap! Like this is real." And then I also had dreams where the water levels were really high, and there were craft all over the sky. Uh, I don't know what to think about that. I did talk to another woman. She's an older woman, and she had some experience with grays, and she also had dreams where there was flooding as well.
mhm.
Now,
Oh.
there was part of the communication that said these weren't the words, but the idea was if shit hits the fan. Can I cuss? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you can. I'm not monetized, so go ahead.
Okay.
No, you can cuss on my show.
Sorry. If things go south, we will, what we're doing, part of what we're doing, will enable you to be with us. We will take you away. Now, is that schizophrenia? Is that paranoia? Possibly. Conflating other things that I'd heard? Yes, possibly. However, my wife, unbeknownst to her that I'm having these conversations, she has a dream that a ship has landed in some kind of heavily populated area. There's people all running to go look at the ship. And she hears a voice in her head, and the voice says, "Only you can hear us. One day, something like this might happen. And if you choose, you can come and get on the ship with us." And she said no because she doesn't trust me. And so I was like, I got a similar idea that like there's a there, and I've talked to a couple of other people privately who have experienced things without communicating that to them, and they have said the same thing. They're like, "Oh yeah, they're just gonna pick people up, wipe the shit off, and put everything back down." And I
Well,
don't.
how is that any different from the Christian rapture that's spoken of and other things that are mentioned in other belief systems
It
around the
it
world? It's
it's
not.
it's not, and I mean, I've heard some of the people at the forefront of this movement mention it, that there is like you want to get scientific, there is geological, archaeological proof that the earth has been totally wiped out before. And and I'm not a doomsday person. And again, I'm not saying any of this is actually factually going to happen, or that I'm chosen or special or anything like that. That is not what I'm saying at all. I could be absolutely out of my mind.
No, I don't think so.
But those ideas were communicated to my wife and I. Yes. And as far as like I don't feel like I have to save anything, but I feel like I need to let people know that they might need to kind of like know where to have their mind, like get your priorities in order. And I don't mean like get your will written and your finances in order. I
Right.
mean like get your mind right.
Well, of that.
Mm.
I agree 100%.
Sorry for rambling.
No,
No,
you're not rambling. No, this
beautiful.
is an open space. This is not it's supposed to be a conversation. Like, yes, we have questions for you, but at the same time, this is designed the whole reason I made this is so people can come talk about things that they can't talk about with other people. So this strange conversations like this, I love it. Not strange to me. And also like, UFO books, weird books, stuff like that. So please don't ever apologize. And you know what somebody told me They're like, you always start every sentence with, "This is gonna make me sound crazy, but," or "This is gonna be weird, but," and she's like, "You need to cut that shit out because it's not."
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're saying, the Earth was wiped out before. I mean, I actually went to the Petrified Forest in Arizona, and I mean, if you saw what had occurred, however many millions of years ago, that leads me to believe that, yeah, that's a great possibility that it will eventually happen again. History repeats itself. So this is a great time for people to get their minds in order to say, hey, what are my priorities? Am I a good person? Do I have good intentions towards the world, towards people? And, I have been told that, I've been nice to a fault, and I'd much rather be that way rather
Yes,
than some like really angry type person. And I think that your message is beautiful. Everything that you've said,
absolutely.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's
Things can
wonderful.
happen so fast. You mentioned
Yeah.
the tsunami, you mentioned the earthquake.
Yeah.
In Alaska, there's a sunken forest that happened after an earthquake, and it's very, like it got preserved into, the salt water because it was by the ocean, but
Mhm.
it looks like almost like a tree graveyard. There's all these preserved trees, and it happened super fast, not even that long ago.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a really interesting dinosaur fossil. It's a velociraptor and a protoceratops, and they're locked in mortal combat. Like they died while they were fighting each other,
Wow.
and they don't know how that happened. It was instantaneous. They
Oh, obviously.
assume that a sand dune. I mean, you can look this up. I'm not making this up, but
Mhm.
they assume like a sand dune fell over on top of them or something. I don't know. I don't understand. But the thing had its claw on its belly. I mean, I don't know. I guess they could have killed each other. But if you look up
Yeah.
the research, it
True.
says that it appears that they died like instantaneous. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
Hmm.
But that's
Yeah, I
neither
mean,
here nor there.
eh,
We're here to talk about aliens.
No, we're just saying that you were mentioning things can happen, and we look at that even in Pompeii, like,
No.
mhm.
Well, I
people
mean,
you're frozen in time in some instances, it seems
yeah,
like.
6 hours south of where I live, there's a giant crater in the Gulf of Mexico where a huge meteor hit.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
the dinosaur fossils, just in general, are proof that there was life here at one point that's not here anymore because there was some type of worldwide cataclysm of some sort.
Yeah. So do you guys think that then what they're trying to accomplish, the beings being near the nuclear plants and any military bases, that they are trying to sorry, I'm trying to find my words here properly and like make this all make sense too, because I want us to all make sense together. But do you think that they have something to do with that, that they know that this has occurred in the past and that there's potential for us to do that again with what's going on in the world now? It's like the world is in need of great repair, and I can't expound on that enough.
I will say this is going to be a weird tie-in, but so stay with me, and you might have to help me
We're
with
good.
my train of thought. But I asked them if there was anything to God and hell and Jesus, and because I got to know, man, I was raised Christian,
Yeah.
so it's like, is that a thing?
Uh-huh.
And this is another thing I can almost remember verbatim. And it was the same conversation where the two orange lights were on the opposite side of the trees. And they said, we cannot reveal to you the answers to those types of questions because it would defeat the purpose of the faith that's required to believe in such things. As if to say, I'm not going to interfere with your choice to do or not to do that thing. I assume that they might have given some inclination that, hey, this is a bad idea, but I don't think they're going to stop anybody from taking a course one way or the other. I
Mm-mm.
don't think they're afraid of us at all. And I
No.
don't think that they are going to interfere in a way that's going to stop our own path, you know? Does that make sense?
I
Sure.
think it does, and I think the same thing because look at all the stuff that's happened, and then also people that have communicated with them will say, like, they don't violate free will, which I got a message like that from an angel when I was younger,
Yeah.
when things were happening in my life. And it was an angel, but the angel was a light person, like a light being. It didn't have wings, like you're shown, but
Mhm.
they don't interfere. But it makes you wonder, why did they interfere with like some things? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. And that kind of makes me go, because I do have some trust issues. Okay, because that gets into another part of my experience where it's like, okay, they're telling me this, but you guys are showing up in my house
Right?
unannounced and uninvited. Because people are like, well, you made an agreement in a previous life.
Yeah.
It's karma. There's all
Mhm.
these reasons why it happened. But from my perspective, I'm going, no, they came to my house and came in my house. Just like if I came to your house and walked in the living room and like, hey, I'm going to poke around for a minute. That cool? No. I
Yeah.
mean, can you explain yourself? So it's like there is this sense of like a violating of your personal space, but if you ask, they just make it sound like, well, we have to. This is above your pay grade, and I'm not going to interfere with your free will to make decisions, but I got to do this. This thing has to be done, and I'm going to do it. And if you're not going to cooperate, I'll just tase you.
Right.
That's
And
how it feels, and probably, yeah.
Oh,
well,
they told
well,
me like they were just doing their job at one point. Like, don't,
yeah.
we're just doing our job.
Well,
Like,
that's
not, and I'm like, so to them, it's like the whole analogy of like us and the ants, right? Like, we don't really think of it when we smash an ant or
yeah,
step on something,
yeah.
Most of us don't, but it's uh, it's perspective, and we have to stop assuming that the way they think is like anthropomorphic, like the way we think. And it's scary, but it's just like going to a doctor's office almost. Like I just took my son to the hospital because he was having some issues, and I was like, buddy, they're just doing their job. And then I was like, oh, sounds familiar. But it's for the better. It's for better. But you don't even get that with some of these beings. They don't say it's for the better. They're working.
Yeah,
It's
and
weird to think about. They're just like, oh, 9 to 5.
Right.
well, somebody asked a great question one time. What are they doing in their off time? Like when they're not abducting people, or well, I don't know if they're abducting people. Uh, but whatever they're doing, like what are they doing when they're not doing that? And then I think that ties back into the idea that these grays are like some kind of biomechanical
Yeah,
thing.
I've
And they
heard
do.
that.
The one I saw was emotionless. Like the
Yeah,
the the first thought that came to my mind was zombie. And not because like, oh, it's creepy and dead. I just mean like that was just the first word that came to my mind because there was nobody home. It was
yeah.
just like, that's the thing that I've been talking to. That does not match the face. Like that thing is just like, ugh.
But wouldn't
But
Yeah.
that,
uh,
well, I've always questioned if they do have emotional intelligence, but that would make sense if they would have a stoic face. If
mm,
they're communicating through their thoughts and just looking at you, then
mm.
why would you have any sort of emotion
They
on
don't
your
need
face?
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
Interesting.
it would seem to me that they are. I think that they view us as children. That was
Mhm.
something. Again, they called me sweet child. I'll just say it.
Oh.
That's neat.
Or one of them did.
That's
The one that seemed to be in charge. It was a woman, or it was a female of some sort, and
Yeah.
uh, there was a sense of like trying to comfort me, but the little ones, or whatever the tall one was that my wife saw, those things are just like, uh, you wouldn't want to hang out with those guys. Like I don't think that I don't know if they were the ones talking to me. Because when I was right in front of one, I didn't hear a voice. I just
Mm.
saw it. And again, like I was 6 feet away from that thing. I've tried to replay it in my mind and just go like, did I really see that? Like I believe my wife, but when I saw one myself, it was just like,
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. There's
There's
that's
no
true.
words for it. I get it. I've negotiated with one of those females too that was in charge, and he used to joke
really,
like, she was like, her energy was like an alien queen, or a gray queen or something.
I just took it as the captain. She was the captain of the ship
Yeah,
or of the
yeah,
project. Whatever was going on with me, she was
authoritative. Yes.
the authority. Yeah, she was person in charge. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
No, where nobody does, and that's the thing. Like, and the answers are all over the place for people that do have answers. Like, why are they? It's like Jacques Vallée's book, Messengers of Deception. They're
Mm,
giving everybody these messages, and some people prophecies even,
yeah.
and none of it's happening. And then you'll talk to some people, and they're like, "Oh, well, it did happen. You're just not aware of it because it's on another timeline." Well, why are they telling me in this timeline and then doing it on another timeline? It's they're very confusing, and they're not very clear with them. They're clear with what they tell you, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's like poke in and out. Why are you hiding in the closet? Like, what are you doing?
Well, and that's why I say it's like they don't fear us. I think that there's
Oh
a
no,
huge gap in, this hurts some people's feelings when I say this, and my brother-in-law is very deep into all this. He had experiences as well with what he claims to be a reptilian.
wow.
But it was like a shadow silhouette thing. Yikes. But he gets offended when I say this. But I say, well, these things are like superior to us. Like they are so beyond us that they're just like whatever, bro. Like
Yeah.
they're not concerned. And he was like, no, nothing's above anybody. We're all equal. We're all one. I was like,
And
metaphysically,
We are.
to
metaphysically we
us,
are, but we're in a duality or polarity here
Sure.
where there's a physical vessel that we're in that's limiting the astral body,
Mhm.
right?
and I don't think they have that limitation, or they
No,
have some way to transcend that limitation. And it's like, yeah, my dog is a beautiful creature that on a soul level is probably more advanced than me, but I have to feed the dog, or it's like,
yeah,
are we eating today or what? So
yeah.
I
it's
love
like,
that. Yep, it's
so
true.
it's like, that's the relationship we have with these things. I mean, they don't have to explain themselves, and they know that.
No,
I mean, I think they view us as children, maybe not literally like genetic offspring, but like just,
evolutionary, maybe.
yeah, just like metaphorically speaking, like we're like children, just like
Yeah, we're
that.
not that old if you think about the age of the universe and from what
Yeah.
we know. And that's weird about time and aging things is that's only governed by Newtonian physics. That's here. Like if it's another realm or another world or a parallel
Mhm.
universe or dimension, what makes us so sure that
Mhm.
any of the rules apply there?
Mhm.
Any of it, even the way we are reasoning right now.
It
Right.
It,
doesn't. I mean,
why
Trying
would
to,
that be the same everywhere? You know what I mean?
yep,
mm, I agree.
100%. Would I have a question for both of you then? Since we're all experiencers here, the idea of going into regression has been brought up to me a couple of times. Have either of you been through regression or would consider going through that?
Priscilla, you want to
I
go?
Whichever.
I never wanted to because the things that do come back to me are so first of all, like I've done a regression like on by myself, like a guided one, recorded one, and all this weird stuff came up, but not about the experiences, but I wasn't asking the experiences. I've only done past life regression. And then this one, I don't know if I want to do it because as a little girl, I was so terrified of what they were doing. But I don't know exactly what they were doing completely, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
almost
don't
as
need that in
you
my
don't
life.
like it.
I'm afraid to know,
Right.
what if they were doing all these horrible
Right.
things or what if like the what if reliving that through hypnosis puts me back in a frame of mind where I think I'm going crazy? Because that's happened to me, anytime I dig too deep on what's happened to myself and do too much self-exploration with this particular subject,
Mm-hmm.
and the events that I've had or the experiences that I've had or the contacts that I've had, I feel like I'm losing grasp with reality. And that even includes the good experiences that I do
Mhm.
remember some of.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I feel like I feel as if nothing is real sometimes when I dig into that. So I'm afraid to do hypnotherapy for this specific thing.
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation. You want to stay in control.
Yeah.
Don't blame you.
I have the exact same answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I also did a guided regression type thing. And I also had some images flash in my mind. Is that my imagination conflated with what I've heard, or am I actually recalling something that I shoved down into my subconscious? I don't know, but the things that I heard other people describe without me telling them what I heard first is eerily similar. Like the long curved hallway, the color of the walls, um, being in a large room just on a single table with the
Yeah.
female. It was like a constellation kind of thing, like the end of the procedure, and that was being calmed down.
Wow.
Now I don't know uh, if that really happened, but I'm not real sure. Just like she said, I want to dive into that and open that can of worms, and also when I do talk about it and enter into the discussion, I don't. If a debunker or a skeptic starts saying, "Well, you've just had regression, so that's where this is all coming from," I can say, "No, I don't." I was like,
Right.
"I did not
Mhm.
have regression. I did. I remember enough with the being awake and sober and aware. You know,
Right.
all this kind of stuff."
That's a perfect kind of little bit of a segue for this question that was in the live chat from Random Content. Question for David: have you written this down? The communication specifically. G- that's a question.
I have a file that is in a filing cabinet in a bunker.
Nice.
And like it's not literally, it's in the garage, but I have some things in there that I'm going to leave to my children. um and what I think I'm going to do is make a kind of brief synopsis. If I were to create my own ODNI report, I'm going to make something like that and just turn it into a PDF and just let people have it, so I don't get accused of like, oh, you're trying to make money writing a book, huh? Like,
Oh,
no, here it is. I'll keep my day job and I'll do this for free so that you can't accuse me of anything.
right.
But I do plan on writing more of it down, but some of it is written, including dates and when I saw the craft, I drew it immediately, all that kind of
You absolutely should do all of that. It would be a disservice to your children and the public
stuff.
had you not decided to do that. You need to do this. That's why
I
we're
Yeah,
here.
Yes,
That's why we're coming forward. It's awesome. You
absolutely.
I
It's
mean
not
definitely,
that's
easy,
yeah.
I don't.
especially if you think your children are going to have
Mhm,
anything, and it's
mhm,
it's shitty to think about. But my son has said some strange things before. Like he said, when he had some sort of dream where a big pond was at the end of our stairs, and there
mhm,
was a big pond all around the house. He's
mhm,
5, so he doesn't know the word flood yet, stuff
mhm.
like that. And I'm like, and then he's like, oh, when I went in the alien bubble, and I was like, what? So it's important for you to give them like a open space and tell them what you've been through in case they have to talk about it later or want to talk
Mhm,
about it with you even.
mhm. Now
Yeah.
I don't just I've discussed it with my two oldest children, not into great detail, but they know I've seen craft and seen a being, and Anna has
Mhm.
seen craft. That's my wife's name is Anna. Anna has seen craft and beings, and something happened, but I didn't go into a lot of detail.
Okay.
And they don't like to discuss it with me because I it's triggering, and I get
Yes.
Yeah.
upset and I get anxious and I start fidgeting. My heart rate goes up and I get frustrated. So they don't like to bring it up. And then my two youngest, I don't even talk about it at all.
Right.
And a matter of fact, they're not home right now. They went to go out to eat so I could have this discussion without them being in the house. And
Yeah.
father, or my youngest said, "Well, what are you talking about?" I was like, "Weird stuff that's happened to me in my life." I said, "It'll be recorded, and if you ever want to know, you can listen."
Yeah.
I was
Absolutely
like,
appreciate you
"But
making time for us here.
not today." Oh no, this is no problem at all. I thoroughly am enjoying myself, and I appreciate you guys for letting me do this.
No, we are very excited to have you because I don't know. I just after I met you on Calling All Beings, it was like,
Mhm.
and we didn't even get into the similarities. I would really love to know what your wife went through, and some of her experiences, but in perfect time. I don't want to trigger
Mhm.
anything,
I could
because
tell you because she's told me, One of which I think is particularly interesting because it was when I kind of had a revelation about these things. One night, right after Violet was born, uh, Anna was asleep. We were both in the same bed, and Violet was in like a baby bed that was right by the bed. All this stuff was still going on, and the Violet screams, just like screaming, awful, like not just crying like my diaper's dirty, but like I'm in pain. And my wife picks her up, and she won't wake up, and her whole body's just stiff as a board, like just like all her muscles are tensed. And Anna starts freaking out and shakes her, and I don't mean like shaking a baby, like,
Yeah, just a little.
but like trying to jar her awake. And she was just, her eyes were pinched shut. She was just screaming, screaming, screaming. And this went on for what felt like an hour, probably a minute, 2 minutes. It went on like that. She finally woke up, and she was just like, huh, huh. And Anna turned to me, and she was like, I had just had a dream that there were two of those things in the bedroom, but their eyes were orange and they weren't black. And she didn't know about any of this stuff. And the first thing I thought was just like that Kelly Cahill case in Australia, where there were gray type beings with the orange eyes.
Yeah.
And she said they were in the room right before Violet started crying and waking up. And I was like, my God. I was like, do these things exist like in that astral realm, and they can cross over into this one? Is that what is
Yes.
going on? Because it seemed like, you know, that's what it seemed like to me. I was like, they can cross over from that place, the place that we go to when we sleep, when we meditate, when we astral travel, when we
Yes.
take hallucinogens. They're in that place also, but they can
Absolutely.
come here physically. And so I think there may be a meeting place. There may be a realm of consciousness that everything is feeding into, us, them, giraffes, birds,
Yeah,
and they can access it, but they can cross all the way over physically.
absolutely.
Jesus.
Absolutely. No, I do a lot of dream work with people. It's kind of like something I do because I've been able to lucid dream for a very long time, and people come to me with helping assist themselves in becoming lucid dreamers to take control of their dreams if something like that's happening. But that's the difference. Like, you can't stop these ones for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And with lucid dreaming, you can. And there is that whole astral realm. Like, you're right. It's a meeting place. It's that liminal space where we kind of travel, like our consciousness or our astral body, whatever you want to call it or refer to it as, you're there. And people are like, well, then it's just in your mind. It's just a dream. It's just, you don't know enough about consciousness to say that, honey. How do you know that I'm just not consciousness and this is not real?
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's super crazy to think about. Let's not think about the whole, like, how we perceive reality thing, because that's another mind, but but yeah, I am a firm believer on that. And I'm actually looking for people that are experts in dream time that are, want to talk about this. So if you're listening and you're a psychologist or you study dreams, I've done my own studying, but I don't have any degrees with it. But I had a lot of dream experience, and people come to me with a lot of dream experiences as well. So I do see your family coming in, and we are at the hour. I saw him behind you. I saw him by the. I don't want to trigger anybody.
You sure that was them? No.
I saw some. Yeah.
Right?
So.
Yeah.
Um.
I think that
So.
was my son.
Okay. Oh, okay. I saw somebody walking. Yep. See?
That was
So.
Liam.
Oh, okay. So.
He's had some experiences.
I wonder if that also correlated with the sleep paralysis. So, when you get that right person that comes in with the dream states, we need to expound on sleep paralysis because
Absolutely.
that's a huge tie. Yeah.
He was a big sleepwalker.
Oh, wow.
And one time I had a dream that he was probably 7, 8, 9 years old. He doesn't know about this. He may be getting disclosed right now. Welcome to disclosure. So I'm having a dream that these things are in the sky. They're like everywhere, like a lattice work of these giant saucers that are multicolored. And my son is sleepwalking, and he's like banging into the window like a zombie, like he's trying to walk through the window and he's just bouncing off of it. And I'm like, they're trying to draw him outside. Oh my gosh. And then, like a couple of weeks later, we went to Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, and he slept walked out of the hotel room.
Oh my
And this
goodness.
was like just not long after that dream had happened. And again, am I conflating? Maybe. But that creeped me out a lot.
Mhm.
And he had this thing in his foot one time. It was about the size of my pinky, and it just looked like about a pencil, like a splinter,
Wow.
but the size of a pencil in the bottom of his foot, and it was just there for forever, and it would hurt, and it eventually caved in, and now it's like this concave scoop looking thing that still, I mean, it hurts if you poke it and you walk on it.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
It sounds very painful.
Have you had any body scans?
Yeah, no body scans. I have had marks on my body. I had one on my elbow for sure.
All right.
It was like a purple discoloration circle, and then inside of it had like a white circle, and then 5 little white dots.
Really?
I showed it around to people at work the day after. They were like, "Is that ringworm?" I was like, "No, I've had ringworm." I was like, "This is not ringworm." And then somebody looked at it. They said, "Did somebody put a cigar out on your arm?" I was like,
Oh,
"No."
wow.
And then somebody looked at it and they looked at me like, "You're weird." I was like, "What do you think this is?" I took a picture of it.
And you're supposed
It's
to
all,
say thank you.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I took a picture of this thing. I have it on file, and
Oh,
like,
good. Good.
yeah, I have to
Yes.
dig it
Send
up.
it
I
to
gotta
me.
dig it up. I gotta dig it
Yeah.
up.
Send
But
it to me,
like,
please.
I had it's on an old phone from like
No worries.
2000, whenever this was going on, like a flip phone.
The Nokia brick.
Right. And then I swear, because people are like, this is always the story. I transferred the phone to my laptop. I mean, the photos to my laptop. I ran out of memory on my laptop, so I took all my photos and put them on a USB drive, and they're stuck on there, and I can't get them back into the computer. And
You're
that's
gonna
where
have to call Geek Squad
that
or some
photo is.
computer guy.
That's what that photo is. But and that thing went away after like less than 48 hours. It dissolved,
Interesting.
and
That's
I
strange.
thought I had been prodded like a cattle prod.
Yeah, with the little
That's
markings and the dots. That just
yeah.
sounds like you don't fall and get
And why
that.
would it go away so fast is another thing. Like
Yep.
these things tend to just heal. I had an experience last year and I remember I looked at the back of my neck and it had looked like back here, like where that divot is in your neck, a little bit lower than that. It was like um it looked like almost like a bruise, like a perfectly round bruise. And I sent a picture to my friend Nikki, and because of the things that were happening around that, I deleted it because I was kind of in denial about other things that happened that night because it was
Mm-hmm.
like, here I am, this shit's still happening sporadically. So I totally hit strange and it was gone.
Yeah, and you don't have a picture of that, or you probably didn't think of it. You probably thought, oh,
Well,
something
I sent a
happened. I
picture to my
forgot.
friend Nikki and I told her what happened, and it was like it just was really freaky to me. So it's still
Oh,
one.
okay.
It's the latest. It was one of the newer. It happened last year around February, and there was other things that I kind of like had experienced that night that I'm still really freaked out about. On top of that, so to me, I was texting her about it, and I did get a new phone since, but I kind of like psyched myself out about it. I was like, no, it's not related. It's not related, and
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Yeah.
but I don't. And at the time, I wasn't planning on telling anybody what had happened because this was last year around this time, February time. So I didn't plan on having a YouTube channel. I didn't plan on telling everybody what I would tell everybody. So
I understand
Yeah.
totally.
I
David,
was
you need to
almost
get
like the opposite.
that.
Like, I don't want evidence that it happened because it was freaking
Right.
me out that it was still
Yeah.
happening, if that makes any sense.
No.
Now I'd be different. I'd be like, oh, take
Yeah.
that picture, like,
Totally makes sense.
it's
And
out
that's
now. So
people ask, they're like, why didn't you were 40 feet under a UFO? Why didn't you take a picture? I was like, because it was blowing my mind so hard. I couldn't even spell my own name if I had to. And two, your mind's blowing and you don't even know if it's actually happening. I don't know. And I never thought, 11 years from now, there's going to be some troll, an anonymous troll on
oh,
UFO
yeah.
Twitter that's going to be demanding evidence from me. So I better
Yeah.
take this photo to appease him.
Yeah.
That didn't cross my mind at all. Matter of fact, it felt incredibly personal. And I was like, wow,
Yes. You
I
said
don't want to
that.
take a picture of this. I know it's happening.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, We are an hour and almost 10 minutes.
I mean, if you guys want to keep going, we can, but I'm good for whatever. I
Uh,
think Liam hasn't come out here and been like, dude, you
Let's
okay?
see. Let's see if Steph has any more questions.
well, you know what? Sorry, I'm back.
Throw the questions.
My questions fell. So yeah, sure. Well, I'm interested in if David wants to do a CE5 or if that's something that you want to explore, or are you just like when it happens, it happens?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like they sought me out initially. I do not feel like I initiated contact. I think that is a thing. I don't necessarily understand how it works, and I don't think it's like automatic. I think there has to be some kind of connection that you establish that like builds up to a point, and there has to be a trust kind of situation, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But there was definitely a time in my life when I could call them in. And I feel I don't know if I could do it again. And I know that sounds like a cop out, but I'm just saying I turned it off. I flipped that switch. I took whatever the pill was in the matrix that takes you out of it, or whatever. Like I kind of did that to myself, and I feel like I probably could go outside, and it might take a couple of days, couple of weeks to get kind of back into that headspace, maybe immediate, but I definitely have done that. I feel like I could do that, but it's not something I really desire, because I feel like if I do that, I'm going to open that door back up and they're going to be in my house again, and I got to be at work, and I don't want to deal with a delay.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my thoughts on that.
For sure, yeah. Well, I'm just curious because if that were to be presented to you, we don't know what the repercussions are should you really have something come that close to you again. Are you going to get any biological effects from radiation or any burn marks, or are you going to be abducted? We don't know that. And so I pose that question because people are so curious about this, and we want to see them, we want to bring them near, we want to study them, but are we open to that side of the potential of something something bad occurring?
Well, yeah.
But then you get to that point where you're like, let's just do this. Like, come out.
No, I understand. I mean, and for the purpose of science, I think that's where Lou Elizondo and all of them are kind of focusing right now, is let's get the hard data. Let's get the science. You say you can call in and do CE5. Let's do it. Let's film it, prove it. And they're not being a jerk about it. They're just saying that's where we need to be to get everybody on board. But I would warn people that, you are, what's the quote? If you look long into the abyss looks back at you.
Right.
So there's a weight to it that I don't think anybody could handle. An orb is one thing, a craft in existence is one thing, and I'm not diminishing those encounters, because I think it's the same beings. They're just further away, or in a different form. But I would be careful.
Yeah, I mean, the level of seriousness to this topic, I mean, I really hold a lot of respect for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so should you have, say, this strong group of people come together to, try to see what we can accomplish, you would almost need, this is going to sound out there, but you would almost need some sort of a bunker to protect yourself. I mean, if this were to happen, let's just say.
Well, what happens when you go home after the group of people? You know what I mean? So
You
we all
get
get together, we
abducted.
have happy intentions, we get home, and
you get
all these
abducted.
people get these experiences,
Well, there's so many, like, Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm sorry, Pricilla, because I'm getting a little excited about this, because I am trying to coordinate something, and there is a bunch of anomalous activity over in the Utah Basin, and I know you guys are both familiar with that. And so if you go to these locations where you have this high activity, then should you gather this group together that has this like just different level of
Consciousness.
what they're able to accomplish through meditation, I
Yes,
would say,
absolutely.
you get to a different level, and I just don't know how
Yeah.
to explain it because I'm exploring it myself, and I'm
Yes.
just like I'm surprised by what's happening.
Yeah.
So you get a very strong group of individuals together to do this. Should something occur and something show up, then how do you protect yourself? And I think that probably should be addressed because we're being visited. It's not from here, and we are aware of that. The general public, eventually will realize this and have to accept it. And I mean, we're
Absolutely.
starting to try and like open up that box. And
I would definitely be there virtually for you.
I
I
no,
wouldn't
you
turn
have to
it
be
down,
there.
well,
because I used to do CE5 and I did have a lot of beautiful
Yeah,
experiences too, guys. This isn't just
yeah,
um all doom and gloom and I was afraid from it. I was scarier when I was little, and it's scary in the sense that you question your sanity and the reality of the situation. So that's why
sure.
it's scary, but I've had beautiful experiences that I don't talk about because people are like, woo, woo, you're being woo, you know? I do want to ask this one question because we don't have a lot of questions in the chat, but this one is um, around missing people. David and Steph, do you agree that the DNA manipulations and all the mysteriously missing people and children are some of the most critically important problems humanity faces right now?
you want to take that first?
Well, I mean, it's definitely, gosh, okay.
It's a big question.
Yeah, if it's sure it's a huge situation that we need to address. Does it have something to do with abductions? Potentially, I mean, we have CIA to investigate these situations. I'm sorry, I really want to answer this properly and like make it make sense also. But there's so many unanswered questions. So sure, I mean, there is the potential that some of these people have been abducted. Is it for their study? Is it for our study? Are we all connected together with this? I mean, I just watched something earlier where, yeah, I mean, people they're giving this trade. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. It's kind of wild for me to wrap my mind around. But that's a pretty interesting question. I don't know if I can entirely answer that. I'm sorry, John, but it's nice to see you in the chat though. I love watching you with Amy the other night.
I think that touches on the doom and gloom kind of stuff, and I think it is happening. I don't know though. Like I don't think you can say for absolute sure if DNA manipulation is happening. I felt like yes, it is, but I feel like they are saying it's for a good purpose. It's making you stronger. It's making you healthier. It's making you more capable of adapting and surviving to all the changes happening on the planet. Is that a lie? I don't know. Am I crazy? I don't know. But are they doing that for my benefit or are they doing it for their benefit? Because there's a lot
Right.
of people who say they're doing it for their benefit, and that's just a lie. You'd have to ask them, and I'll just go ahead and tell you, they're not going to tell you. You're going to get to the bottom of that rabbit hole, and it's going to be a gray going, he went that way.
Right.
Because that's how they operate. They're not going
Yeah.
to find out. That's where you're going to find that answer. But as far as like kids missing and people missing, I've heard about that. I've heard about where they think they're going. That's like the reptilians and the underground and this human sacrifice, all that horrible stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening. I couldn't say, but tying back into the CE5 and protecting yourself, I feel like you got to meet them in that astral plane
Yes.
and kind of barrier yourself off there before they come here,
That
and
would
then double up here.
That's a lot of energy work though, guys, coming from somebody that purposely goes there, and does a lot of meditation work and trance work, and I've had, like, a waking astral travel experience, where I was sitting down and it happened. So I achieved some levels of meditation, um, and I think that if people are not prepared to go there or see something, they might inadvertently attract something less desirable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if everybody's familiar with like energetic shielding or just setting intentions in general. But there have been large CE5 events and people have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think
I
that's
think you should do it though, Steph. I think you should organize it. And are you familiar with Tyler's work?
No, but I'll
Contact
look him
Tour?
up. I'll
Look up
look him up.
Contact Tour.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
They're in California, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Midwest now, but I'm
Oh,
going
okay.
next
Okay.
week,
I didn't know
though,
if you were okay.
yeah. No, I'll be there next week. So, okay, well, you can be virtual then, Pricilla.
I will. I'm not going to say no. I mean,
No, I know, and there are some like aspects to it to where you're going, hey, look, I don't know if I want to invite this in. You don't know what you're able to accomplish though, so
well,
we'll
I
just.
think that there's a yin and a yang to it. I think
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
if there is a side of it that you want to keep at bay, there's also a side of it that is right there with you to help and to be there.
Yeah.
And I felt the same presence as well. During everything I was going through, there was the confusing, invasive kind of stuff, and then there was something that felt safe.
I
At
call
a,
it damage control because like something bad would happen and
yeah,
then they'd show up and give me something nice and safe. I'm like,
yeah, it was like at a distance and on purpose, as just to kind of be like, we're here too,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna come in. We're just, everything's okay. It felt like there was more than one thing happening. So I think you do have to kind of go to that meeting place, that consciousness realm, and establish some boundaries there, and then come back here and put on your tinfoil hat and establish boundaries here, and just kind of, you know, have somebody or yourself that can just, you know, protect the space. I think you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the intention that you put in. You know,
Yeah.
if you're putting in, this is gonna be weird, but I have my rose quartz here, and that's
Mhm.
love. You know, I'm yay.
rocks on
And
rocks.
so
And I
when
have
I
a vine.
meditate, yes, when I meditate, I'll do, you know, my saging, or if I need to turn on some like certain music that makes me get to another place, then, you know, my intention is usually good. And, you know, if you were to do that, then I mean, I believe that that's what you would receive in return. And I mean, that's just kind of how life goes too, in general.
Yeah.
I've
There's
got,
also
yeah.
holding of container. You know,
Mhm.
there's priestesses that do this. Like I took a priestessing training and I learned how to hold an energetic container for people. Now, could I hold how many people are going to be there? You know, like for a small group of friends, for a small circle, I feel confident. But if I'm holding it, if you have this massive like meditation event, you could have a couple people that know how to hold energetic space working together to contain it. And you do work in liminal spaces. You're in between this realm and the one that David is talking about.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I've got rose quartz hanging in from my rear view mirror in my truck.
Nice.
everybody needs rose quartz.
That guy
Yes.
with crow feathers and hawk feathers. I'm more in the woo than people I let on, but I totally agree with what she said, that you do need somebody there that can hold that space.
Like
And
facilitate. Yeah.
I know how crazy this sounds, you know, because I've got one foot in the world where you don't talk about this at all, and then I got another foot where I can hold energetic space for a lot of people, and I will make sure that they stay safe. And I don't know which way to go, you know, because I end up talking to so many different people that, you know, I don't know. It's hard.
That just sounds responsible also. You know, just to have a group of people together, to have somebody that kind of does ground everybody and facilitates the entire operation, to where you're going, hey, look, if anybody gets to a level where they're uncomfortable, you know, you do need to have somebody watch over that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. I do agree with that too. Great. That's a great idea. It's in the preliminary stages. Things are coming together, and if you guys are open to it and you decide to change your mind, just send me a message. It'll be in a couple of months. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sure. Keep me informed for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Same here.
absolutely.
I've
It'd be
I've done other events, so I'm not opposed to it, honestly, because
oh,
I feel like if they're already visiting, they're already visiting. But doing it in a group for a right purpose,
right, exactly. For good. Yeah, for
See,
sure.
everybody has a rose quartz.
Yeah,
Even
they
John,
do.
even John has a rose
I'm
quartz.
so glad.
So, guys, it's I have about 5 minutes left. I had to wake up early tomorrow because we're gonna go visit some cow farm with the long hair in the morning. So the boys can brush the cows. They're people's pets, but but I had to wake up early and get everybody going in the morning. So let's we can always come back to this. We can always have a part two with David. I'm open to a lot of different things. But Steph, John's asking what your Twitter information is, and I do have it in the description. I think I have your Instagram in the description.
Yeah.
So do you just want to say it out loud in case people are listening just to audio? Where can they find you?
For sure, absolutely. It's UAP Experiencers all across the board with the exception of Instagram. There's an underscore, UAP underscore Experiencers. If you've ever had anything happen to you, paranormal, UAP, please feel free to send it on over. I would love to go ahead and post that for you guys and just share your story. It does serve as somewhat of a therapeutic type form of sharing, and it's actually really a good thing. So don't be afraid. Just we're here to share in an like a positive light. I don't know how it's just weird because last year I was so afraid of sharing. So I understand if you're at that point. I was
Yes.
literally like shivering in my like seat when I spoke with Danny Silva just on Twitter and Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling people what happened finally. So I mean, I understand, and I think that's the most important thing is that I get it, and that's why I was intrigued by David and seeing you guys on not Death Cab for Cutie. Why am I thinking of that right now? Calling All Beings because of the taxi cab. Calling All Beings. I love Death Cab for Cutie though, by the way.
I was gonna say maybe you want to listen
weird.
to
it. That is so strange. Oh my gosh. But anyhow, no, but I saw you, David, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this beautiful human needs to talk to Pricilla and I, and we were, so excited to have you decide to come on and chat with us. So thank you.
I really appreciate the space, and I can totally relate because the first time I told my story on Death Cab for Cutie,
what?
Priscilla heard me, but like the first time I told my story, I wept. I like cried.
Yeah.
And like if I talk about it to a new person, I literally have tremors like inside my chest. It's like, and I saw Priscilla tell her story. She cried, and
when I talked to the girls from that one time.
That's great.
I don't think people understand. I'm on the side of the light, okay, but I also don't put up with any nonsense either. And I get like really triggered when people are just so dismissive because I'm like, I don't think you have any idea how deeply this affects you.
I agree.
I mean, you're talking about, I think it was David Jacobs or John Mack that said it's on a level of like PTSD.
Yeah.
Like you literally need therapy after something like this. But
what therapist, right? They want to think
John
it's hard.
John Ramirez recommended somebody that I looked
I'll have to hit him
it,
up.
and he said it's specifically for. So I mean, when somebody from the CIA is like, oh yeah, there's a therapist group just for people like you. I'm like, okay. So I mean, I'll have to watch it again. I wrote it down, but saying all that, that's why this is important, and I'm very glad that you invited me on here to do this, and I think it's great, and I hope that more people kind of come out of the shadows because this ain't Chinese drones, y'all.
No, they're not.
Yes, so please, please reach out to Steph or myself. If
Mhm.
you don't have to come on live like this and tell us, Steph has a way that she shares stories. She doesn't have to tag you in it. She shares that on Instagram. She does these beautiful posts, and she can share your experience in a way where people won't know it's you unless you want that, because that was one of the options she gave me. So and it's very well done the way she does it. So even if you just want to tell somebody, get in contact with one of
Yeah.
us, because I can refer you to her if you want to get it out that way. Or if you don't want to get it out, you just want to tell somebody, I'm cool with that too. You don't have to come on here and
Yeah, totally anonymous is completely fine. And I am in contact with a licensed therapist who does primarily work with like people who have served, who've had PTSD, with an emphasis on UAP contactees. So yeah, I mean, I have contacts also for people that would be searching for that. And I mean, I'm going to be talking to him one day and potentially going under regression with him. He's going through the classes right now to get to that. He just got his master's. So yeah, some very credible people that I respect, and they respect the community also. So yeah, David, yeah, just check in with me anytime. I'll connect if you need to connect. Priscilla,
I might
you
even,
just
yeah.
never know. I have spoken to a counselor before for like a family situation, and it was truly the most beautiful and best thing that I did for myself. And yeah, I mean, I probably could have handled it, but it would be a little bit more painful had I not
Yeah.
seek that type of advice. So I highly recommend it. That's what they're there for. Yeah. Yep. No
Absolutely.
shame.
Awesome.
It's a healthy thing. It's a healthy
It
thing.
is. Just had to talk about it, especially if they're open to that situation.
Yeah, 100%.
So, guys, is anybody coming on? Is anybody going to be anywhere else this week? David, are you going to be making any other appearances?
Nope.
Okay. And David is on Twitter. I did not put your information in the description because I wanted to ask first. So,
No, it's fine.
okay. So I'll add him in case you want to talk to him. Maybe another experiencer resonates with you, or,
I'll talk. I mean, I'll answer any message or respond to any comment as long as I have time. I have to go to work in like an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw you looking at your watch. I was like, sorry to keep you for so long.
No, you're not keeping me, but I'm just saying, like, I have my phone on me all the time.
Okay.
And if somebody had something to say to me, I'll try to respond to it like as soon as I can. But I definitely think that the more this kind of comes out in the open, the more that this kind of thing is going to need to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it does sound out there. It's like, hey, I need to seek some therapy for what I had encountered.
Right.
That doesn't sound outlandish when you've encountered something. So
and if you go to the wrong therapist, they're going to send you to the mental hospital.
Yeah.
And give you an antipsychotic.
That's always a fear of mine. That's why I haven't mentioned this side of things.
No, you want it to be results. So yeah, I'll be on with Disclosure Team next week.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are following Disclosure Team. If you're not following Disclosure Team, definitely go there. I'll share the event for sure. Because Steph has a very interesting story herself, and I think that she's going to be telling more than she's told publicly to Vinny, right? Than you've told people publicly, I guess.
Correct. So we'll have a video of my mother's account. We're going to blur her face. I'm sure if you really want to dig deep, you can find out who my mom is, but it's like, why?
Don't be a jerk, guys. Don't do it.
We're unveiling the information because we're being nice people. So, but it'll be my mother. I have an audio account of my sister. So we'll be playing that, and we'll show some pictures of some aerial shots of where it occurred and, the car we were in, and just kind of more detailed information to where you can put it all together to, realize, there's three of us living. I found that it was important for us to tell, what had occurred. And I'm glad to share. And yeah, Disclosure Team's going to be on YouTube. Vinny Adams is incredibly great with this community.
Yes.
I mean, he serves this community like
absolutely.
I mean, I just cannot believe what he does and how much time he takes for his
Yes.
research, the people he can, get in contact with. He does have some great relationships, and it's all built on his, great work. And I just really
Yeah.
respect him. So I'm
He's a
just
very
glad.
respectable guy.
Yeah.
Just all around great guy, but yes, definitely check out that channel if you haven't. If you're listening to Anomalous Podcast Network, you know who that is because he's on Anomalous Podcast Network as well. So you know who Vinny is. If not, find out who Disclosure Team is. That was actually my first intro to UFO world, community was through Vinny. So yes, I have a very high regard for his work.
Yeah, 100%. Can I also touch on Disclosure Symposium?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, do it.
Okay, so May 27th through 29th, guys, there's going to be a huge conference in Utah, and it's called the UFO Disclosure Symposium. If you cannot physically make it there with all of the, regulations going on, or, just things in general, there is an option to view it online. I have a link. If you feel like going to my link, great. If you don't, I don't really care. I just want people to be there to witness what is going to be unveiled. It's going to be vetted material that has been looked over by sources that I cannot disclose, and it's just going to be super exciting. I mean, Avi Loeb's going to be one of the speakers from Harvard.
Very cool.
Wow.
He's incredibly, just involved in this community where he's doing the work, and I'm just really excited to see what he has to say and what he has to unveil with
Absolutely
what they're following. So yeah, he'll be there, and then people from Skinwalker Ranch, Flag Frog Ranch. It's just gonna be just a good like-minded group of people together trying to find out more information. So
Wow.
just show up or come online. It'll be like you're there anyhow. So yeah,
absolutely. I was looking at that and I don't want to miss it. So and if you have a link, you can give it to me. I can add it to
Thank you.
the description as well. So
that's cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks to everybody on the chat listening. Make sure you go follow Steph, and I'll get David's information in the oh my gosh, I can't even think in the description. And then we'll get you in touch with David if you need to be in touch with David. And obviously, you know where to find me. So please like, subscribe, share, follow these amazing people. And I'll add the link to the disclosure thing, the Disclosure Fest or Disclosure Conference on this as well. Thank you again. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate everybody listening or watching. If you want to support the channel, like, share, subscribe. There's other ways to support in the description. And everybody have a great night. Steph, David, hang out for a minute after. Thank you so much.
Yes.